Welcome to the Futurist Society podcast, where we delve into the latest advancements in technology, science, and culture. The Futurist Society is your window into all of the awesomeness that the future holds.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Futurist Society, where as always, we're talking in the present, but talking about the future. Today we have the CEO of Spiritech, which is a really interesting technology company that's working in the neurodivergent space. We have the CEO with us today. Her name is Tara May. Tara, thank you so much for coming today, and tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
Thank you for having me. Like you said, Spiritech is a really fantastic organization. We are a tech company that does user testing, accessibility testing, cybersecurity, and more, all done by an autistic team. 90% of our team, from entry level all the way up to executive leadership team, is neurodivergent.
And so what made you focus on this space in particular?
Two things, right? Both a problem and an opportunity. The problem is that many autistic adults, cited as high as 80%, are unemployed or underemployed. But it's not because they don't have value to bring to the workplace. There's a lot of hurdles in the way. So we sought to solve that problem while also leveraging the great employees, technologists, and innovators that autistic people can be. And we built a really thriving business around that.
So when we're talking about autism, I feel like the rates are increasing. I don't know if it's like a diagnosis based or if it's, just because for whatever reason, the ideologic factor is increasing in our society. Do you feel like there's more of a push for these kind of companies, or like what was your experience with just over the past history of you having this company? Have you found that there have been more people seeking you out?
So I'm pretty deeply entrenched in this community. And what we believe is that we're much better at diagnoses as a society than we were 20, 30, 40 years ago. And I'll give you a good example, right? My father is very severely dyslexic. And his first diagnosis in 1965 was a kindergarten teacher telling his mom that he was stupid. Well, he's not stupid. He's dyslexic, right? And so diagnosis and getting better at that is a really powerful thing. It does mean more people can get the services and support that they need. And so we see today a lot more diagnoses of neurodivergent people, but also a desire to fill their needs at school and now in the workplace. I think we have a lot more work to do, but I think we're seeing a really great moment in time.
Mm-hmm. And I guess you could have started this company with people who were not specifically focused on this diagnosis, but outside of the problem itself, what was the initial decision that made you go in this direction as opposed to just starting up a tech company that provides these services with people that don't have this diagnosis?
So our company has actually been around 18 years, and it really came from two founders who were passionate about helping their autistic adult son find work that was commensurate with his capabilities, and it just didn't exist. And so fast forward 18 years, we're now, from that kitchen table, 100 employees and $7 million in annual revenue, and continuing to grow at double-digit rates. So I think you see both a need, right? And that's part of what inspires our mission behind our company, but also a solution, because we have great customers coming back to us over and over again for our tech services.
Wow, that's impressive numbers. Where you guys are located in? Where are you guys located?
We're Chicago headquartered, right? So We're born and bred here, but we now have employees in more than 15 states, and we have customers all over the country, coast to coast.
Wow. And how are these people seeking out your services specifically because you're addressing this population, or are they just like looking for a good tech company? They find yours and they're like inspired by your mission and decide to move with you?
I think it's a little bit of both, right? So we have a sales and marketing team. They're going to market just like the sales and marketing team of any other tech company. They are pitching us as amazing at what we do because we are. Now, are there people that are willing to open the door a little bit wider or a little bit quicker because they feel a kinship to our mission? Absolutely. And we view that as a wonderful thing. But when you're paying, $50 to $100 an hour for tech services, it's got to be more than mission. It's got to be excellence.
And where do you find that neurodivergent people excel at in your company? Is it mainly like behind the actual coding and actual technical stuff, or are they being trained to do customer service and all that stuff? Is it in all levels of the organization, or is it mainly back office kind of stuff?
I love that you asked that question because it's a great one, right? And when our organization started, it was really built on this idea that autistic people are a good match for quality assurance and user testing. And some of them are, absolutely. But autistic humans are humans, right? Just like all of us, different strengths, different weaknesses. And I think what the founders really built is a company where neurodivergent people can thrive at whatever it is they want to do. So today we have neurodivergent people in sales and marketing, in HR, on the IT team, absolutely everywhere, including tech operations and creative services, right? So to us, it's about finding out a person's strength and passion and pairing that to a business need. And that's when magic happens.
Nice. So where do you see this whole neurodivergent emphasis going? I feel like more people are being diagnosed these days. I'm sure that not only from providing a service, you probably have some insight into treatments and just the overall outlook of the community. Tell me what you think about where we're all headed with this.
So whenever I hear, and I do often, right, living in this space, that someone was diagnosed recently, I say, congratulations, because now you know something about yourself you didn't know yesterday. You're the same person, but you know better how to support yourself. And I hope that's where we're going, right? Where we're going to a place where we can embrace these differences, lean into our strengths, and think about how to support people, not just in K through 12, which we've gotten much better at, but in life beyond that, and really see what value everyone can bring to the workplace and to the world. And I think that makes us better humans, better organizations, and better societies.
Mm-hmm. Do you see that happening in your own company? Do you see like the growth happening for your employees?
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of what we do at our organization is rebuild confidence, right? When your life has been framed from a deficit perspective, that comes with self-esteem issues. And so we have to rebuild the confidence of our team members and remind them what they're capable of. And once you start doing that, absolute innovation and customer satisfaction and excellence in every category comes out in spades.
How are you pairing the employees with the specific task that would fit them best? Are they just applying for these jobs based on their own proclivities, or is this something that like you work with them for a bit and you say, listen, you might not be the best at interacting face to face, but I think that you would be really good in this situation? Because I feel like that's something that every CEO or manager has. They have to pair the talents of their staff with the actual services that they provide, and it's very difficult even for people that don't have a diagnosis like this. But I can only imagine it would be more complicated in your situation.
Yeah, I think you're so right that it's actually the same amount of complicated for all of us in leadership, right? We're all trying to figure out, how do we position our team members and therefore our companies for success and for matching either the business needs or the client needs? And sometimes people know, right? Sometimes people will apply for the right job. They'll know what they're passionate about and they'll know what they're good at. And some of us are on a journey of discovery, right? We're still figuring it out, figuring out where we belong and what we're good at and what value we bring. So that's the way we try to attack it, right? We try to understand what people want to do. We try to look and see their strengths, and then we match that with a client need when it comes up. right? And that really allows us to sort of treat our client work like a Sudoku puzzle, right? Where we're filling in the pieces and the team members that we think are going to be most excellent at it, which is often the agency model.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I think that there's really two models there. I had on this guest, Simon Johnson. He won the Nobel Prize in economics, and he was comparing like countries that do well versus countries that prosper versus countries that don't prosper. And his overall idea was that countries that invest in their people and develop the country that they're lording over, those tend to prosper over countries that are much more extractive, just taking the resources and moving on. And I feel like it's the same for business, right? Like if you hire somebody and they don't fit and you just, dispose of them, I don't see that as a really good culture. I think it's more, at least in my own company, like we're trying to invest in people, we're trying to develop people so that they maybe not are able to fulfill the job on day one, but maybe day 100 that they're doing really well at it. Are you guys doing that kind of development, or like how? I still I'm not sure like how because you have this different type of person, how you're figuring out what they would be best at.
So first of all, I love that example. I'm going to steal it, right? I mean, that's fascinating. And I think, yes, it is the exact same in organizations. And I think not only is it the same, it's more critical in 2025 than ever before, right? Because we're asking people to learn and innovate and move at unprecedented paces as technology continues to advance. So I would argue that at every company, it's really important to invest in your people and give them the resources they need, as well as the psychological safety they need to move at the pace of generative AI in 2025. And we apply those exact same principles with our autistic community, right? We bring people in often at entry level and teach them various skill sets, right? Some of the skill sets they'll pick up and be awesome at. Others will go, you know what, that's not quite a good fit for you. But what we're looking for in 2025 at our mission-based organization, and I would say at any organization, is learners, right? This willingness to learn and think about the skill set you need, not only today, but 6 months from now, 2 years from now, because it's changing at such a rapid pace.
Mm-hmm. How did you get into this position? Because I know you have a background in other companies and stuff like that. Like, what made you decide that this was the move for you?
Yeah, I spent 25 years in the corporate space, mostly in digital transformation for media companies. And I really decided I wanted to do something with a bit more purpose and meaning. And this position sort of found me in a way. A headhunter reached out to me about it. And I have an autistic son myself. And he really changed the way I view the world. And I became really fascinated and passionate about the way our brains impact us, both in life, but also in work. And I've read so many management and leadership books, but I've never read anything about neurodiversity at work. And so I thought, what a huge gap, right? And I became really passionate about helping people understand how supporting their own brains can help us in every organization thrive and grow and innovate.
Hmm. What do you when you're talking about supporting your own brains, like what do you mean by that?
Well, I'll give you a good example. I am not a morning person. You put me on a call at 7 a.m. and I'm barely going to be there, right? I'm going to be struggling. So when I was younger, I would have, sucked it up, and I still do when I need to. But now I know I'm my most productive self, starting from 9 onward, right? And it's a small little example, but it's one I think people can relate to, where you figure out what works for you and you allow yourself the grace to have those accommodations, right? And I think when you do that, you start to see what other people might need, the people on your team. And if you support them and give them the support systems they need to be their best selves, that will help your team thrive.
Mm-hmm. So I'm interested in talking a little bit more about your relationship with your son, if you don't mind. I mean, I think that especially it's super applicable. Like I think that I personally am not in that experience. At least I hope not. I have a 5-month-old right now. How did that diagnosis occur? And then when you have that diagnosis, like, are you looking for root causes? Like, are you doing like advocacy stuff? Like what changed about like your interest in this particular field? Is it something that made you go into the job that you're at? What was the change that happened within you and like your interests?
So I think everyone's journey is different, right? But I'm certainly willing to share mine. So for us, my son probably went through 6 or 7 different diagnoses before we eventually got his autism diagnosis at age 5. And it started with a global developmental delay, which essentially is code for your child is not developing typically, but we don't know why, right? He was pre-verbal until he was about 7. He had a handful of words. And we, at some point in his life, were doing 30 to 40 hours of therapy a day. And a week, 30 to 40 hours of therapy a week, which is a full-time job for a little kid, right? And seeing if he was going to be able to make it into a standard kindergarten or not, right? And today he is 14, 9th grader in 3 honors classes, a volleyball player, has a great group of friends, is incredibly verbose. And I think what I came to learn during that journey was that he was capable of absolutely anything, but he might need different supports to get there, right? And it was a really important piece that I took with me. And the second important piece I took with me is that it wasn't always going to look the way I pictured it. And you said there too, right? I hope not. Well, I think that's what most parents feel. I hope my child is exactly typical and that life is as easy for them as possible. But that's not always the case, right? And I came to understand, even my competitive type A self, that he's a gift. He's a gift to me and the world. And if I could go back and undo his autism diagnosis, I would not. I would not. It is core to his identity and who he is and the child that I love and would give my own life for. And I'll give you a good example of that. For his preschool graduation, he's a twin. So we're marching into preschool graduation, got a twin on each hand. And his neurotypical twin goes running off to join the other preschool graduates, right? Marches in line. He's got his little robe on and his little certificate. And my autistic son is clinging to me and sobbing. He is not going to leave me. He is not going to go join those kids. And I was really sad in that moment. I was like, gosh, he's not going to be like everyone else, right? And he's not going to have these moments. And so I was holding him in my arms for the ceremony. And the rest of the students all get their certificate and they march across the stage and their parents take their pictures. And the principal actually stopped the ceremony for a second. And he said, we have one more graduate we'd like to recognize. And they said my son's name. And he sort of bolted up in my arms and waved his hand to everyone in this room full of hundreds of people. And he said, that's me. And I thought to myself, no, it's not going to look like I thought it was going to look. But my goodness, it can still be amazing, right? So it became about changing my expectations, not him, changing mine.
Mm-hmm. That's great. This is a great story. Yeah, I mean, I wonder if the future is going to hold more tailored treatment. Like when you say you're doing like 30 or 40 hours of therapy, because we're innovating just everything right now as a society, is that going to be easier for people because now we have more diagnoses and we're better at diagnoses, like maybe we can tailor those treatments a little bit more specific to these people. Do you see that happening with autism therapy and education and all that stuff?
I see constant innovation, right?
Mhm.
So there's constant innovation in this space. And generative AI opens all sorts of doors and opportunities for this, right? I mean, there are social modeling conversations. There are, communities emerging online where people can really unmask and be themselves. There are actually generative AI programs that will tell you on a video how someone's feeling so that an autistic person who might struggle to read social cues doesn't have to rely on their own internal understanding of what the person's feeling, but they're getting little emoji notifications, right? So much innovation. But I think what I love most of all is that the therapies and the treatments are around helping a person be their best selves and be more accepting of themselves rather than changing and shifting, right? And what I want most of all is for the world to accept people as they are, all their quirks and differences and imperfections, because we all have them, right? Rather than trying to shift people to fit into some sort of box.
Yeah, I think that that's going to be more accessible. I look at even now, the generative AI models are a great filter between different people. Like, let me give you an example. Like, I have a guy who works for me, and he's really smart, really capable. He used to be a physician in Saudi Arabia, but when he came over, he wasn't interested in pursuing like that whole process all over again from zero. But he's always concerned about his English, like when he is interacting with other people, and he's slowly grown in career and expertise. But he always has felt that like his English has been keeping him back. And so, I introduced him to ChatGPT, and now he uses it as a filter for all of his letters, all of his messages, and you can tell that the level of professionalism has changed pretty significantly. And I feel like that's what I see is for anybody that's different, as some sort of like filter between different mindsets. Almost like in Star Wars, you had like a protocol droid, that taught you how to act in front of people. And I think that that's going to be like this almost like ambassador for each person individually. Do you see that happening?
Absolutely. I mean, we are technologists, right? And we've lived through a lot of different phases, right? That advent of high-speed internet, where all of a sudden so much information was available in our homes and our works. And then the iPhone, where we were carrying it around in our hands. And then COVID, where it became a demand that everything become digital, health, food, everything, right? And now generative AI. And through all of those phases, my philosophy has always been, this is a tool. And as humans, we need to decide, how are we going to use this tool? There are going to be ways we can use it that are not good, right? And that disconnect us and that divide us. And then there are ways we can use it to bring ourselves closer to each other and to make ourselves better. And I absolutely see generative AI as a huge opportunity for that, and to bridge, like you said, so many of our differences. What a great opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even just universal translation, that's like such a low hanging fruit. It's so close. I think that's going to be really, really awesome to see. I'm headed to Egypt in December, and I just ordered this um, set of glasses that has the ability to do real time. Yeah,
I did the same thing when I went to Costa Rica. I was like, I need
yeah,
Spanish, right? My high school
yeah,
Spanish is not going to cut it.
yeah. What did you use? What kind of translation service did you use?
I used, I can't remember the brand of the glasses I used, but it had a ChatGPT filter on it.
Yeah. So like I'm really looking forward to that experience, just to see if that's something that is actually viable. Did it work for you? Was it? okay, or
It worked so well. I mean, there were moments where I liked being able to read it on my phone, so I would still pull up a translate on my phone. But since it was live hearing, I didn't have to type it in, right? So the speed at which you can do it and move is just so much faster. And I
yeah.
feel like it helps you also to learn the language. Like I felt like I was speaking a lot better by the end of it from hearing what I wanted to say in my ear.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to this experience as well. Well, cool. I think that, we're both agree that AI is going to help people connect. Is there any sort of things that are coming down the pipeline that maybe you're hesitant about obviously a lot of people are talking about it being this existential threat, and even just like AI aside, do you see any pitfalls for people who are neurodivergent in the future with all the different changes in technology happening?
So I like to think of myself truly as like a realist verging on the side of optimist, right? And so I never really go for the doomsday discussions about any technological change, right? I just don't. And this is from a woman who started her career in print newspapers. So like I have seen the decimation of industries from tech, right? I know, but I also know that it creates as many jobs as it gets rid of. And, we're already seeing that, right? One of the things our team is being asked to do on a pretty frequent basis is the annotation and normalization of data for large language models, right? So if you're willing to learn and go with the flow, it's going to create new things for you. Now, that said, one of the things I always do concern myself with, and I think it's more risky right now with Gen AI, is the inherent biases that can be built into these tools and how sometimes it can actually strengthen the divide between us. And I think we have to be really cautious of that. I'll give you a really good example. Hiring screening by AI is set to filter out a lot of people who bring a lot of talent to the workplace and a lot of diversity of thought to the workplace. So I think we have to be really careful that when you're mimicking human intelligence, you're not carrying with you the biases that come with human intelligence, right? And that's something I think we need to be really thoughtful about.
Yeah. I think that, when I look at things like social media, for example, initially when Facebook came out, I was in college, and it allowed me to meet hundreds of people that I otherwise would not have met without this intervention, right? And different people. And so I saw that this like explosion of um, tolerance and interconnectedness. And then now we're kind of like at that end stage where now it's being used to separate us into like these little groups. And I wonder if that's going to happen with technology going forward. In the next few decades that are coming, like not even AI specifically, but I just think that the when I see technology coming right now, I'm looking at it with rosy colored glasses, and I don't know if I see enough of the pitfalls. I certainly didn't see the pitfall of social media dividing us the way that it is right now. Um, but I think that that's something that you might have some insight in. You're a little bit more plugged into this community. Is there anything that you in particular are concerned about?
I'm always concerned that it's going to further divide us, right? Not just in terms of differences among humans, but also the wealth divide, is going to continue to grow, and technology is accelerating that, right? And so when I think about the future and I think about what we are doing to embrace and innovate with the technologies that are coming, I always try to encourage myself, my teams, the people I speak to in the world to keep our humanity at the center of it, right? That's what differentiates us. That's the tie that binds us. It's community, it's a sense of belonging, it's caring about each other as humans. And as technology advances, if you ignore that, that's where the peril lies, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
what we're seeing on social media. I mean, we're completely stripping away people's humanity,
Uh-huh.
and we need to hold on to it.
Yeah. Do you see any in particular threats to your own company? Like I feel like a service-based technological company or tech company, that is something that I know AI is trying to focus on, right? Is to make things better and like also to make things cheaper, less human beings doing more. How do you feel about that?
Sure. That's absolutely something we confront on a daily basis, right? I think that's why, as services companies, particularly as tech services companies, we have to constantly be thinking and innovating and growing and changing both what we do as well as how we do it. It's one of the reasons we launched into cybersecurity, right? All of these technologies are creating huge gaps in cybersecurity and therefore national security and personal security. So we became really passionate about how do we actually keep people safe in the midst of all of this change, right? And that's actually a growing field with more demand and only expected to triple and quadruple in growth as the technology evolves it and more opportunities to take advantage of it come into light, right? So absolutely, we're at risk every second of every day for change and automation. And we have to guard against it by teaching ourselves the skills that are going to matter in the future.
Yeah. Do you find yourself relying on AI at like just like the ground level? Like are your staff members, has it permeated their day-to-day life? Because I still think that there's the majority of people, at least in my own company, are not using AI. It hasn't had that. Like I am, and the guy who I mentioned earlier, using it to rewrite his emails and stuff like that. Do you feel like specifically in the tech world, is everybody using it now? Because I can tell you in the medical world, it's definitely not even half. The majority of people are not using AI.
I think you are right in most industries and most organizations that it's select groups of people who do use it on a daily basis. Um, Sometimes it's the leadership, sometimes it's not, right? Sometimes you'll have executives completely ignoring things like that and not taking advantage of new tools. I would say at Aspiritech, our adoption is high. And that is something I push for, right? I push for us not to be afraid of new tech. Now, that said, we've got a fantastic IT team who makes sure that whenever we roll out a tool, it's vetted, it's tracked, it's documented. We know where our IP is going. So we want to use it safely, securely, strategically, right? But after 30 years in this space, what I truly believe is that fear will end up leaving you behind.
Yeah. Are you guys making your own AI models, or are you just using? Oh, okay. You are.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Interesting. And you're deploying them to your customers, or are you using them internally?
Both.
Hmm. What kind of models are you using like in your own life? Like, are you using ChatGPT, Claude, Grok? What are you using it at, and what are you using it for?
So I use a variety of different tools with a bunch of underlying agents, right? One of my favorites is Perplexity. I love it because it was one of the first to actually come out with like real-time sourcing rather than, 5 years ago data. I love Context AI because it splits everything into um, actual usable formats like Excel documents and Word documents and things like that. I am a huge fan of Geek and Shortwave as a personal email tool. And all of those will take, 3 or 4 different models and combine them and use them. Um, we use it to create video and content for our learning management system. Uh, we use it for sales proposals and for identifying prospects. I mean, there's probably not a department that isn't using it in some way, shape, or form, except for um, maybe HR.
Hmm. Yeah. No, it's nice to know because like I feel like my use cases are very different from your use cases if we're talking about what companies we're working at, but everybody's kind of using it for document, like for copywriting and, basic emails and stuff like that. Yeah. And so it's just interesting to hear what other people are using because, you can get siloed in some of these uh, different AIs. Like the majority of people that are around me use ChatGPT just because I introduced it to it when that first model came out, and I was like, this is amazing. This is going to change the world. And I was like telling all my friends about it. That's something that they just ended up using it because it was the first one that's out there. But now, there's so many and they're so different. So it's nice to hear that what other people are using, specifically in the tech space, what other people are using. So where do you hope we go with all of this? Like, especially in the light of you having a son with autism, you having the management of a whole host of people that have neurodivergence. Where do you hope that the future ends up in 10, 20 years? Especially with our interactions with technology.
So I spend a decent amount of time thinking about this because I'm an advocate, right? So I'm advocating for the world to change and be better in a lot of different ways, specifically for autistic people and neurodivergent people. And I'm also a human experiencing 2025 along with everybody else in real time, right? And it has seemed like a very mean year. It has seemed like a very mean year from the political space to what's happening in social media, what's happening in terms of immigration here in the US. It just hasn't seemed very nice. And what I hope, what I see, is that there's backlash against that meanness and against that chaos. And people actually want to repair it and care about each other as humans. And the world is changing really fast with technology. I hope we're able to use it to come closer together instead of further apart. And we have a lot of work to do to mend that bridge.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's a really cool thing to think about because I feel like when I speak to somebody who is an advocate, they have an idea of the issues that are surrounding a certain climate or a certain event, and then they also have like an idea of like where they would like the future to go or like what you're trying to build. And I think a more inclusive future, a more nice, kind future is something that that we can all hope for. I feel like you're advocating the same kind of message that the movie WALL-E advocated for. Like, you ended up with like this group of humans that were very isolated from each other, even though that we had all this abundance of technology. And I hope that people think that, I wonder what you think that that's going to look like, like what if you have any sort of insight into what it's going to look like for your son that has this diagnosis and like how he's going to use technology to become more inclusive into society, or at least what you hope that it's going to look like.
Well, I think the first way I hope that it looks like and what I work for every day is that we speak it out loud, right? I mean, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, even the early aughts, diagnosis wasn't either existent or talked about. And I think that's a shame, right? I think we shouldn't have to hide who we are. We should be able to be who we are every single day. Our identities are so complex, right? We aren't just one thing. We are a gender, we are a sex, we are a ethnicity, we are a color, we are a diagnosis, we are an economic status, we are friends, we are introverts, we are extroverts. We are so many complex layers to ourselves. And I want to create a world that values each of those identities, embraces us exactly as we are, and allows us to be the wildly imperfect humans that we are.
Yeah. Certainly supports us the way that we need to. I look at that as something that I'm really looking forward to. You know, having two daughters, like each one of them is so different. Like if I were to compare them to plants, you know, like this plant needs 3 grams of fertilizer. This plant needs like 2 grams of fertilizer. This plant needs, you know, a quart of water. This one needs a gallon of water. And I feel like that is something that I'm really looking forward to, because like I'm trying to figure it out in very brief moments, and you know, based on like a whole history of average of average interventions. But I hope that AI can look at us as our whole picture, and you know what, you actually need 3 grams of fertilizer rather than 2 grams, and like, you know, give us exactly what we need at the time we need it, because it never goes to sleep and never turns off, and that's what I hope from technology. So it sounds like you're thinking the same lines. And so kudos to you for actually advocating for it. But we are getting close to the end of our time. And I wanted to speak with you about like the 3 general questions that I ask all of my guests. First of which is where you're getting your inspiration from. It sounds like a lot of where you're getting your inspiration from comes from your family. But for me, it's science fiction. And I think about utopian science fiction. And that's the dream that I want to create into today's world. What about you?
Well, I told you all about my son, so I'm going to skip that and instead go super nerdy. I am a huge Star Trek fan.
Mm.
And I didn't think I would be, because I don't like science fiction. I don't like Star Wars. And I thought, I'm never going to like this. But my husband said, you have to watch it. You have to watch it. And I found it to actually be this beautiful metaphor on human nature and the kind of world that's possible. One we could create, right? With these beautiful, accepting standards, this collaboration, and this idea that we're never going to stop exploring what is possible. So I draw inspiration every day from the world around me, but also the world as we hope it could be.
Yeah. Which series did your husband introduce you to? Was it The
Oh,
Next
I'm a Next
Generation?
Generation girl
Yeah.
all day. Data and Captain Picard are my favorite characters of all time. I also love the movies, though. I also love movies.
Yeah, that was a good one. So, you know, we talked a little bit about like where we see the future and in 10 years. Where do you hope that Aspire Tech looks like in 10 years?
Well, I don't hope, I plan. So I plan for us to be a $20 million organization to significantly grow and be employing hundreds of autistic adults ourselves. But I also plan for us to take our model to other companies and teach them how to value and include their neurodivergent employees, because they already have neurodiverse workforces.
Mm-hmm. And aside from, you know, the technology space, we talked a lot about AI today, a lot about technology as a service. What else are you interested in? Because breakthroughs are happening in a whole number of different fields. Like for me, like I'm in medicine, but I can't get enough of personalized robots, like humanoid robots or something that I see a YouTube video and I'm going to click on it just because I'm personally interested in, even though it's not my field. What about you? Is there anything happening outside of your own field that you're following with a lot of zeal?
So I love what technology has done and advancements have done for the health space. So 2 points on that. One is I'm a kidney donor. I gave my kidney to my dad about 8 months ago. And to see the transplant process is truly miraculous. And the advancements around organ transplants is absolutely incredible. So I'm really fascinated with that space. And then secondarily, I'm really personally and selfishly passionate about women's health, right? We have for so long focused on the way everything impacts men. You know, everybody knows the heart attack symptoms for men. For women, not so much. For menopause, not so much, right? We just are like, meh. We don't know anything about that, never studied it, don't really have anything to help you. And one of the good things about social media and digital technology is women are demanding some answers for what's happening inside of their bodies. And so I am really passionate and excited to see what technology brings to answer both of those questions.
I look forward to that too. Thanks so much for being on the program, Tara. Thank you for sharing with us your experience. And for those of you guys who are tuning in on a regular basis, it would mean a lot for you to hit that like and subscribe button. And for those of you guys who are tuning in weekly, we will see you again in the future. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
We appreciate you taking part in today's episode. Take this chance to reimagine a better future by joining a community of futurists who strive for a remarkable world. Be a part of this growing network and contribute to making the world a more positive place. Visit thefuturistsociety.net and subscribe to the show so you don't miss a drop of hopeful futurism.